I've been thinking about getting quail. Let's talk about it. I want to take you into the garden now and show you kind of what I'm thinking of as far as where I could potentially put a small group of quail and all the different thoughts that have been running through my head on where we could put them. I could build a frame on top of any one of these 3x5 beds and use the actual raised bed as the enclosure, since it's small enough and these are the same footprint. Is we could do it tractor style, right? We could move them to new beds, and then let this soil break down and enrich the organic matter, and then I could plant in this bed. I would have to let it sit for a year. A potential con is that I would then not have enough planting space, and it's already a small garden. So, but thinking thoughts. Just thinking thoughts. Let's go on to another option. This space behind me, this corner here, that is currently being unused. We did have a small 20-gallon stock pond that I was using during the summer season. We've since moved those goldfish inside for the winter though, and this is empty. So a consideration for next spring is that instead I could convert this area and create sort of a 2x2 for a 4 square feet total enclosure here in this corner. These panels right here are about 4 feet long. They're just shy. That would still be quite a sizable space for them, given that they really don't need and don't want a lot of space. They're very skittish birds and they like to feel safe and secure and enclosed. All right, let's go look at the third option. So my thought process for the 2x8 is that I could just use half of that and then build sort of a custom enclosure with a wire guard that would break it down the middle so that the quail couldn't get out onto the other side. Obviously, you need some sort of barrier. All of the foliage that's going to grow in the spring from this grapevine is going to create a lot of shade, and it actually, believe it or not, creates enough foliage that I think it'll create sort of a curtain for them to help them feel more secure. Obviously, they'll still have an enclosure of sorts, right, to help them feel protected, but I think all that extra protection from the environment around them might give that bed a slight advantage to this one behind me. Now, I can always grow trellising vines, peas, beans, plants, whatever, behind here if I plan it right, and that'll also help. And obviously the wire that's on the side of the cage, plants can, kind of grow on that. So it might be a really interesting relationship to have it in a raised bed and to also have plants in that raised bed. It'd be really interesting to see how it works out. Last but not least, there is one more place that I was considering for them, so let's go take a look at that. In keeping here with the theme of foliage and protective coverage, helping the quail feel safe, I was really considering doing a small setup here by my blackberries. What I think is going to be great about this area is that this will be foliage that returns and grows back every year. It does provide considerable shade and coverage for this area. It's also close to the house, so I feel like it is going to be more winterized in a way because it's not going to get as much harsh wind. It's not going to get, I think it's a really good area, despite how odd it might seem at first to put quail in your blackberry patch. But I think that it might be a beautiful relationship. Blackberry canes are really tough, so if some of these blackberry canes ended up migrating into the cage, I could always pull the cage back. If I leave it with an open floor, I could pull it away and let the blackberry cane continue to grow. I don't know if my mic is picking it up, but we have so many songbirds too. It's a very chatty area of the yard, which I think would be perfect for them. The sound will blend in with the rest of the sparrows and finches. We have mourning doves. We have so many birds in this area and they love hanging out on my neighbor's dogwood tree. And obviously they love this blackberry arch once it's filled with blackberries in the heat of the season. So the quail will have some buddies. They'll have some birdie buddies. The cattle panel is about 5 feet wide, so I would probably do 5 by 2 and just do a 5 by 2 cage right here. Probably about a foot back from the actual where I can see the canes are growing in, again just to give some gaps for new canes when they come in for the next season. But I think that could really work out, and I think that the again, the shade and the foliage is a huge selling point for me as far as putting them in this part of the yard. And I would just put them on top of the wood chip that's there and maybe add more wood chip bedding. I'm really curious though to hear how you keep them, if you keep them outside, because I am not keeping them inside. So let's recap the options for outside. We looked at the corner by the fish pond. So that would be 2 foot by 2 foot with a total, well, no, could be up to, if I'm willing to, could be up to 4 feet by 4 feet, which is a total of 16 square feet. I could do the quail tractor idea over the 3 by 5 beds, which would give me a total of 15 square feet for them. Now, I did say though that it would be a great beneficial relationship to put them over in the grapevine bed, because I only have limited space due to the trim pieces that I have over those raised beds. It's actually only about just over a foot wide, making this raised bed ideal if I was to do the whole raised bed and I let them live amongst the grapevine. I think that would be different. I could put some wire around the base of the grapevine to protect it, and then I would just let them live in the entire 1 foot by 8 foot. So that would be only 8 square feet for them now. But the environment might be ideal for them. So that's just something to consider. The fourth and final spot that we looked at was over by the Blackberry arch, putting them in the space between the arch and the side of the house. It would be a really safe space for them. I think it would be a really good temperature controlled space for them, less exposure to wind. There's a benefit to the amount of space I could give them. That would be 2 feet by 5 foot we discussed, so that would be 10 square feet of space. Quail don't need a lot of space to be happy from everything that I have read, but I think there is some benefit to providing them areas of enrichment, and I want to be able to make sure I have enough space to provide a dust bath and make sure that they have some sort of hide or area that they feel enclosed and protected by, whether that's just putting something physically into the enclosure space or getting something like a coop to let them go ahead and hang out in to feel safe and enclosed by. And I think that it just depends on where I end up choosing to put the quail. And I'm just so on the fence right now because I don't want a lot of them. This would be the first bird that I've ever kept, ever. This is like the gateway chicken. Learn where you are, bloom where you're planted, and I think that quail is a really good first step. If you were me and you were looking at these spaces and deciding where you would want to put them, what would you do? Where would you set them up? Where would you put them if you were me? I'm really curious to hear. I also stopped by the Quirky Quail Homestead. I wanted to do a quick shout out to them. I stopped by and spoke with Angie over there. She runs her own little urban Coturnics Quail homestead over there. So I'm really excited for when I'm ready. I'm going to reach out to her and she's going to help me get some quail and we're going to get started. And I'm just so stoked for that. But for now, I only purchased some quail eggs from her and they are delicious and lovely. My son absolutely adores them because obviously they're just so small and precious. But yeah, so that was our first step in getting them. I actually have a few of them still on the counter that I'm gonna show you. I feel like I could just go on and talk forever about these little guys. There's so much to consider. I could talk myself in circles about all the options. But again, I'm really curious to hear what you guys might think and what advice you might have for me. Go ahead and drop some comments down below and let me know. Thanks for hanging out with me, friend, and I'll see you next time.